If you've been playing Wizard101, you've likely heard of something called raids. Raids are, in essence, large dungeons that groups of 12 people that are in guilds get together and end up doing to achieve rewards. These rewards vary from gear to mounts to pets to treasure cards, and even badges that people go after to get. For example, gear-wise, many people go for the Crying Sky or the Cabals Revenge gear because some of that gear is the best at max level. For example, a lot of people consider the Daemon robe, to be the best robe for PvE at max level. This you can only get in the Cabals Revenge Raid. Or even the Shabalba wands, which many consider to be the best in slot wands at max level because they exchange the pip conserve off the Raver wand for Shadow Rating. These can be gotten from the Crying Sky raid. There also are pets. Many people want to get the Null Dragons, such as the Deadly Null Dragon, because they drop they have valuable item cards that people can utilize in PvP or in standard mode content, such as the Deadly Null Dragon's 35 Dark Pact, the two that it gives. Even still, there are also mounts, such as the Cabal Revenge Raid's Spirit mounts. These are penguins that hoist you up like you just won a revolution, holding a flag that and each one corresponds to one of the 7 schools. There are 7 versions of this mount, for each with its own individual school. In essence, raids are content that drops very valuable rewards that many people in the community want to go after, whether it be to have the best gear or to simply accomplish something that is challenging. Many people engage in raids. And if you're somebody who wants to learn what raids are so that in the future you can begin to do them yourself, this video is the place for you. Because I'm going to go over the basics of raiding and advanced content, which drops some of the best gear in the game, some of the hardest to get badges in the game, and simply is a fun way to play Wizard101 that is different from the standard way of playing that is simply played into AoE that you see so much while normally questing through worlds. In order to raid, you need to be a member of a guild, and you need to go to that guild's house. You can access that by clicking on the social button and going to My Guild and going to the Go to Guild House button here. Now, in order to actually get into the raid, it's not like your standard sigil that you may see outside of a dungeon, but instead you need to go through one of these 3 portals when they are open, or raid gates. Since you need 12 people in order to complete a raid, 12 people need to use the Magic Touch cantrip, which you can see down here at the ritual cantrips, and cast that onto the portal. Once 12 people have Magic Touch the portal, the raid portal will open and you can go in and do the raid. Raids do have different rules from what you may see in standard content, however. For example, in many combat scenarios in Wizard101, at least standardly, you can run a 7-card deck like this, with your damage enchants, some hits, and a frenzy. But raids are different, because raids adhere to PvP rules. Outside of the raid gates, there is this basic raid guide that goes over some of the basics of what these rules are. For example, once you enter the raid, you cannot change to the equipment that you have, or the spells that are currently active in your deck. You need to be prepared for anything in a raid and have your deck reflect that. Also, in combat, raids use snake turn order, much like how everything else in advanced combat does. Let's say you are going first after you cast. Instead of the second person on your team going, it goes to the first person on the other side of the sigil. Then, spells work like they do in PvP. You can't use PvP banned spells, such as feints or AoEs, and likewise you can't use enchants or any pre-enchanted cards. If you want to tell if a spell is usable in PvE, in PvP, or raids or not, you can look at the card itself. If you see this logo, you can't use it in a raid, PvP, or any form of advanced combat. However, if it is like Infection and doesn't have that symbol, it is perfectly allowed. You simply don't want this symbol. Many cards are PvP banned because of, say, their DPP levels. If they're an AoE, they are banned, or other things that may cause a spell to be banned. This is the essence of combat within raids. If you've ever done Beast Moon before, it is very similar, and if you've ever done Challenge Mode Nightmare or rematches before, it's going to be very similar to that too. But what makes raids unique from the rest of Advanced Combat is the way that they work in a dungeon capacity. In order to show you how raids work as a dungeon, I'm going to take you to one of the most iconic dungeons in the entire game. The Great Spire at the end of Arc 1 for a long time was the end of Wizard101, and even to this day, it is one of the most iconic dungeons in this game. However, despite it coming out long before raids were even thought of conceptually, it mimics the way that raids work in this game in a few different ways. For example, I don't have a dungeon quest that tells me what I am supposed to do. While there is a dungeon quest that will see in raids, it is simply just to defeat the final boss. Unlike dungeons such as maybe Darkmoor or Shabalba, it doesn't actually guide you where you need to go in order to actually complete the dungeon or raid. You have to figure it all out on your own to defeat the final boss to finish it. So, let me equip a mount. What you end up needing to do is to figure it out on your own. Now, luckily, when it comes to raids, there are a multitude of raid guides out there that tell you what the puzzles that you may have to solve are, where you need to go, who you need to defeat, and all of that. But unless you are looking at something like that, you're largely on your own in trying to figure out how to do the raid. Likewise, raids often have puzzles. For example, the Voracious Void Raid, which is the first of the raids and probably the easiest to come out, you have to unlock different parts of the raid by collecting tokens. If you've done the Nightmare Dungeon before, you probably will remember that Pharaoh Ramacroc and the Didgeridoo Dragon both drop tokens after being defeated, and you need to use those tokens, of course, and also spin a wheel to the to the school that the boss was in order to unlock the ability to collect Dream Water. The Voracious Void Raid was a very similar way. However, it doesn't tell you, like it does in Nightmare, what you need to do in order to do that. It simply leaves it to you to figure it out. Now, much like the Great Spire, you are not done with the dungeon until you defeat Malistaire. There's no if and but about it. Raids are the same way, and it doesn't tell you how that is done. It doesn't give you a quest or arrow that shows you where to go, nor does it really do anything to help you out in game. You need to figure it out. It's like one giant big puzzle. Now, there's one more thing that is important to keep in mind about raids. You will be restricted to what are known as your advanced combat stat caps. This means that, as nice as it would be, you can't go into the raid with 237 damage as a death wizard, nor could you potentially go in chalked up full on, like, say, Storm Resist to go Storm Immune. There are stat caps you have to follow. Now, I'm not going to go in depth onto all 7 school stat caps or off school stat caps and everything, but this is why it's important to keep in mind that there are other different versions of gear available, as they may help you better fit a stat cap or have the best possible stats possible. That made no sense. Have the best possible stats while still hitting your stat caps. This is where other gear, such as the Reaver gear, comes in, Burrower's gear, the Takanobu gear, the August Sage stuff, other pieces of gear such as Jade gear, the Wastelander's gear, or the Shadow Trickster gear, or the Umbra Queen's gear, and a bunch of different things. Even the plot armor gear sometimes can help you have the correct setup for raids. You see the same thing with pets. For example, I typically run a Quint Damage pet for PvP, or for PvE, but in some scenarios for raids, I may run a different pet, such as not that pet, this pet. Whenever I need to off-school Myth, I have a different pet made up for that. Or whenever I do, say, support rules in a raid, I have a 21 resist pet that I've specifically made for that. But some raid rules do require their own specific pets, and that's something to keep in mind before you start getting into raiding. There are a lot of commitments. You need to have a gear commitment, is a time commitment, because raids typically last 3 hours long, and there are also a lot of other things that you need to do to make sure that you're ready for a raid. Now, this video only was intended to serve as kind of a brief overview over what raids are, how they work, and what you need to keep in mind for them. But on this channel, I hope to try and demystify raids a little bit and help people figure out how to run them by posting videos of raids, going over the different rules, what you do, and why you do that. And if that is something that interests you, I encourage you to like this video, subscribe, and keep looking out for more videos as I go to hopefully explain raids in the best way possible, advance combat in this game in the best way possible, and overall help you understand the game and its mechanics a little bit better. If you in the description below, I'll include a video that I've already made on this matter, the Crying Sky raid and the IF2 strat, the IF2 role in the Dauntless Troop Crying Sky strat. And coming out this weekend and later next week, I'll have other videos going over the other two raids and roles that are present within them. But the most important thing to keep in mind if you're looking into getting into raids is to be open to listening to other people and help them and listen to them when they try to help you understand the game better. Also, be prepared. You are going to have to make a lot of different setups. You're going to need a lot of different gear, but the most important thing, as it always is with any video game, is to have fun. Raids, if you let them be, are exciting, they're fun, they're stimulating, and they're things that I hope that you can go and enjoy. If you have any questions about raids or anything in particular, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or join the Discord, which I'll have linked in the description as well. In the meantime, have a great rest of your